Finally, I am on. The Pundit's Pundit, after a year of planning and all the pundit points and the Jake takes, well, a couple of them at least, is on. This is the first episode of the Pundit's Pundit, and I am Jacob Christner. And on this first episode today, we're going to talk about a few juicy items. ARod buying the Timberwolves, which is needed, necessary, and everything in between, except it'll be starting in 2023, and I'll go into that. And also, I'm going to be going into the idea of the older owners versus younger owners. That goes seg straight into that. Along with that, we're going to talk about load management in the NBA and a little fight between the players who want to keep fatigue away, the fans who remember the older players didn't care about that, and the owners who want to make money. And that's a whole debate for now. And then I'm going to explain where I was wrong, my first one. It has to do with Nate McMillan, Trae Young, and the Atlanta Hawks. Anyway, let's go into the first part. ARod is now a Minnesota Timberwolf, at least in theory. He is now signed on, if he's accepted, to be one of the owners of the Minnesota Timberwolves, taking over for Glenn Taylor, who's about 82 years old. Biggest issue I have with this, though, now mind you, he'd be one of the youngest owners in baseball, and we also know a rare minority owner in sports. But here's another deal. Here's another thing about this, though. This is the weird part of it. He takes over in 2023. So Glenn Taylor, it's like he is trying to retire at 84 years old instead of 82 years old, where he should retire anyway. Now, all of this segs into one of my other issues that I have right now. I checked a few things about sports ownership. And at this point in time, I checked 125 franchises around Major League Baseball, NFL, NHL, and the NBA. Checked all these franchises, just checked by the nature of everything. 75 of them still have owners over 65 years old. Now, what is wrong with that part? See, a lot of people are going to say that there's a lack of minority ownership and that's a problem, which it really is a problem. But I'm going to go into that another day, because I find a really big problem with this. You could have 125 minority owners. You could have that hypothetically. But here's what we have an issue with. Is you could have those minority owners could all be 80 years old. And it doesn't matter what their color is, what their skin, what their religion it is. It doesn't seem to matter if they're older. And see, what I'm about to say here, it's not ageism. It's not ageism. Because older people can have a young mind. I grew up with it. So I've seen this. They can have a younger mind, but most don't. You have to remember, one of the biggest deals that we have right now in sports is everything is supposed to pop out. Watch ESPN, it's been in HD since 2006. The colors pop. Everything is faster. Major League Baseball has to have all home runs to keep people's eyes. It's all three-pointers and slam dunks in the NBA. The NFL is all quarterback. All mobile quarterback. Ask about the Chicago Bears, who were, until they got Justin Fields, were a dusty old ashtray, and I'll go into that in a second. But here are some examples of what I'm talking about with some of these. I was writing some notes down here. Where was Arizona with Bill Bidwell? Bill Bidwell passed away in 2019, 88 years old. Ask yourself where they were. They were in St. Louis, didn't get anywhere. Went to Arizona, were a laughingstock. They had 3 playoff appearances and 1 Super Bowl in that time frame. And we are talking over 40 years, almost 50, under Bill Bidwell, under the Bidwell family. The minute Michael takes over, Michael Bidwell, Bill Bidwell's son, the minute he takes over. Now, mind you, you're going to say they haven't gotten to a playoff yet. No, they haven't. But look at that team. They are they are a 4 o'clock team. I call them the 4 o'clock team or primetime team. There are those teams. See, there are those teams that start at 1 o'clock, and there's those ones that are 4 o'clock. Then there's a primetime. Arizona's not far from primetime. They've got Kyler Murray. They've got all kinds of weapons on offense. And see, regardless, and we as fans think of the winning, and the players think of the winning to help their paycheck, but the television wants excitement. TV wants excitement. That is what they want right now. You can't put any team on television now with a Mike Ditka style of 3 yards in a cloud of dust. I mean, that's from the 80s. You can't do it anymore. It won't happen. You could go 16-0 with it, and it won't happen anymore. Remember the San Antonio Spurs in 1999, 2001, 2002. 5 NBA titles over those years. 7 appearances. They were called the most boring team in sports. Greg Popovich is now beloved. He's now beloved. And you don't know why he's beloved. It's because of people pandering. That's for another subject for another time. But Greg Popovich was considered the most boring coach in sports for years. Had the most boring team. You had Tim Duncan, who he's one of the greatest small forwards ever. One of the greatest. But he wasn't a controversy guy. He just got the job done. Just smooth, just athletic, and very quiet. And Greg Popovich, he's just a fundamental guy. He was just a fundamental guy in an exciting world, in the Air Jordan world. And they were considered boring. Now, here's the thing. Because of politics, Greg Popovich spouts it off. Phil Jackson doesn't. So now, all of a sudden, to the pandering people of the universe, Greg Popovich is the greatest coach of all time. These are people that forgot what they said all those years, calling him boring. It's just everything changes. Everything. You can't have just pure fundamentals anymore. It's like I was bringing up Tim Duncan, he's called a big fundamental. You can't do it anymore. It's just what it is. And you can't also forget what they're called. Everything has to, again, forget what they were called. You can't forget what you once said. But here's the thing, going back to what I was saying. The biggest issue that we've got to deal with right now is having to keep eyes on the screen. Everything has to be eyes on the screen. Ratings don't matter anymore. Everything is 2-minute clips, 3-minute clips on YouTube and on ESPN.com and on the BR, Bleacher Report. It's all eyes on there. It's 3, 4, 5-minute segments. People will watch the whole game if it's an exciting game. If it's Kyler Murray versus Justin Fields in the future, which I'll bring up Justin Fields in another episode. If it's that, they'll bring that up. They're not gonna have an 8 o'clock game for Drew Lock versus. I'm sorry, it's not gonna happen. Drew Lock versus. Let's see. I'm trying to use this as an example. Let's see who would be. Oh yeah, on the Detroit Lions. Goff, Jared Goff. They're not gonna use it for that. Not at all. It's not gonna be used as an 8 o'clock. See, here's the deal. The Bears, they got 4 primetime games. They got 4 primetime games, and it was all because of Fields. So guess what? Matt Nagy, unfortunately still there, has to play Fields. And we can play this whole game where we go on to ESPN.com, we go on all the news. Oh, he's doing this well, he's doing that well, but Dalton's still winning. No. 4 primetime games? I'm saying this right now. It ain't going to happen. They ain't putting Andy Dalton on 4 primetime games. It's not. They refuse. They got 3 primetime games last year. And 2 of them were with Nick Foles. That was historically bad offense. They weren't going to have any this year with Andy Dalton, and you know it. This is where everything goes. And here's the notes that I brought in on these. The Chicago Bears, I call them the old dusty ashtrays, the McCaskey family. They're all in their 70s. Every single one of them. They finally got Justin Fields. But will they keep, and will the old lady pay when Fields has to stay? Will she pay out? I doubt it. You got the Bengals. Just like with the Bears, they are the only two teams where football is their only money. So the issue is, will anybody ever pay out when it is necessary to keep a star? Truly pay out. And we're talking quarterback money, not Khalil Mack money. We're talking real money. Will they pay out? When the money only comes from football, now you're thinking of expenses, now you're thinking of overhead, now you're thinking of everything. Will it come? I don't know. But we have to think of those situations. The Chiefs, guess what? They're run by Clark Hunt, young guy. Look where they're at. Patrick Mahomes, who now has a minority share in the Kansas City Royals, who are going to get exciting fast. 49ers, CEO is Jed York, born in 80. Look at where they're at. They're getting better and better. They have a young coach, young everybody in the front office. And then look what they got. They got themselves they got themselves two good young quarterbacks, including drafting one, Trey Lance. But then you also look at for instance, the Calgary Flames. 3 of their 4 of the ownership group are dead, and they were born in the 20s and the 30s. The one that's alive, born in 1945. Born in 45. So how in the world is anybody in that ownership group, I mean the one that's alive, how's anybody in that group going to understand younger players and in a younger generation? That is getting faster and faster and faster. The media is getting faster, everything's getting faster. How are they going to understand that? Pittsburgh Penguins, the Mario Lemieux, who is getting older, who is a legend, but 3 rings with him as an owner. 3 rings with him as an owner, and he keeps drafting. Some of them, got to remember, he had to go through a lot of struggles themselves. They were about to go broke. He saved it the first time or second time around. He saved the Pittsburgh Penguins from leaving Pittsburgh. They were about 6,000 fans. They had about 6,000 fans every single day before he came in, before he and Jaromir Jagr came in. They had this small little group. He built, everything about it is Mario Lemieux. Everything about this franchise is Mario Lemieux. Every bit of it. He won a couple of rings as a player. 3 owner. He brought everything there. He brought every little detail from their winning to their fan base to everything. He is the whole team. So it's one thing if he would get older, because he's going to have a young mind. He has to keep thinking. And it gets on and on. You have to, see, the thing is, I'm not saying older people should not be owners. I mean, most of the older people are the ones that have the money. But you know what we're seeing a lot of right now? The younger people having the minority stakes, and the older people, the majority. The ones that would, and not every single one of them do day-to-day operations, but I'm going to give you an example here. Aaron Rodgers has a minority stake in the Milwaukee Bucks. Larry Fitzgerald, Arizona. Serena and Venus Williams, Dolphins. For examples, all of them. See, and I'm not saying those types know the sport that they're minority ownership in. Because, I mean, when it's Serena and Venus, I want to hear tennis. I mean, I like theirs for being able to get to me, that's a good business decision that they made. But I don't want to hear football. I don't want to hear their football acumen. I want to see their tennis acumen. They're the greatest tennis players of all time. So I want to hear that. But here's the deal. We see so many older owners right now. A real majority. And guess what? This is a real majority. And there are some older owners. I mean, remember, Mark Cuban's getting older. He still thinks young. He's getting younger people. He got Luka Doncic. He picked up Kristaps Porzingis. He got them. So he thinks younger. He does. But a lot of older owners still have this thought process. It's 1991, 1986. Everything. in a media world that doesn't even know that don't even know what year it is because it still thinks it's 2030. See, they move up. The media world's moving up. The financial world moving up. Political world moving up. Everything's moving up. But when you have older ownerships, they move back. No one wins. Team doesn't win. Players don't win. And the thing is, it's time to start seeing. It's time. Here's one of the things I'm going to say with the owners. And this is the truth. Either think younger, and it's possible, or get out of the way because you're just hurting your teams. When we come back, I'm going to bring up load management and the whole debate between the players, the fans, and the teams. See you in a minute. Welcome back. You know, I brought this up just before the break, load management. We didn't hear load management even up to almost 5 years ago. We didn't hear that term. See, we joke around the whole idea of load management. I mean, it sounds like something like what a Michael Jordan or Larry Bird did at halftime to go on the toilet. That's what it sounds like. Load management. I mean, you'd think they're going to, you got to realize something. These were guys that played over 50 minutes in about 4 different playoff games in their career. Just games in itself. These kind of guys did that. Sometimes they did it because they had no bench, and sometimes they did it because they wanted it. See, it was unheard of. It was unheard of to bench. It was unheard of to take breaks. But here's the part of the debate now. See, I'm not for load management. The fan in me is not for load management. As anybody will see on my pundit point, I'm a big Larry Bird guy. Huge. That guy gave his all. Gave every bit of himself to the game. 81, 84, 85, 86, 87 in the NBA Finals. Couple others in the Eastern Conference Finals. He gave every ounce of himself. Twice he led the league in minutes. Every ounce of himself. So I grew up with that. I grew up with a guy like him who shredded his back, shredded his Achilles tendons, got bone spurs, shredded everything about him, his neck, his elbows, killed everything and still dove on the floor. Still dove in the stands when he was up by 30 or down 30 even. Gave every minute. And did it end his career prematurely? Yes. But here's the deal. The fan in me loves that. And the fan in everybody else is somewhere like Boston or Chicago, where they remember Jordan and the flu game. They remember these things. So load management, the people that remember all this isn't from people who are like 75 years old, who are just trying to say who are boomers, and they're saying, oh, back in my day, I'm 42 years old. The people that remember Michael, 30. These aren't old people. These aren't old people that remember when they played, really old and decrepit people that remember when they play, remember the old time. This isn't black and white basketball. This is almost in a recent life, 80s, 90s, and 2000s. You played hard, you played every minute. But now here's the pundit version of me, and here's the debate version of me. I do get it. Thing about, we had Kawhi Leonard. We've had LeBron James. We have the The main three on the Nets have played 7 total games with themselves this year. They're saving it all for the playoffs, as they call it. But here's where we're having an issue with all this. Number one is there going to be chemistry in the playoffs for the Nets and any of these other teams. But in one case, the younger generation that sees this now, remember Kawhi Leonard won it all doing that. So they'll say something like that. So it is a complete debate. It is a complete fight and argument. You usually get them on YouTube under the comment section, but it's still the argument between does all that work. Here's the deal, and this is the truth. 2019 and 2020, well, 2020 had mostly COVID, but even before and after, that's LeBron James. We've had the whole thing started like 2019, really. Load management. It was brought up by SportsCenter. Guess what? Kawhi won it all. Now LeBron James, he won it all. He did. So you know something? They're really 2 for 2. Everything now is run by management, by managers, agents, money. Every ounce of it is run with that. You have to understand this now. It's not as simple as just ads that you see on television during the CBS or during the break on CBS. This isn't that simple anymore. It's not that simple. Ads are not just from television, they're also from internet. You're trying to get the greatest ads. When you think of professional wrestling, we remember the older days if we're fans. Remember, that's a niche, but we remember when we're fans. But here's the thing. Matches used to look like, they used to absolutely positively 100% look like a legitimate fight. And it's like the good guy versus the bad guy, back and forth. Just kind of like it's a morality play. And you looked like it. Now, it looks like a Marvel Universe movie. Every match does. They all do flip, flop, and fly. No one really sells anything. None. Zip. They don't sell a thing. And it's just like everybody has to look flashy, good. But you know something? The WWE, just like all of these, like the NBA, the NHL, everything, they're not doing it. They're doing it for the casuals. The casuals, I put this on one of my pundit points. Casuals make the money. Casuals make the money. Put that in your head. Casuals make the money. The fanatics don't. Fanatics will watch no matter what. They'll go on YouTube and they'll make comments. They'll go on ESPN. At one time they did, at least. But they go on there and make comments. They'll go on their message boards and make comments. They will even go to their little podcasts themselves, make comments. But in the end, no matter how many times they say, we're not going to watch. No matter what they say, I'm giving up if you don't get this guy. I'm giving up if you don't quit this. I'm giving up the name if you have a woman referee or a woman coach. No matter how many times you hear all that, they're still going to come back. They're still going to come back. Guess what, though? The casuals are not the ratings. No, not casuals are the ratings. I'm sorry. Casuals are the ratings. The fanatics aren't. You want to get casuals. You want them. You want to get, you get casuals for WrestleMania. You get them. That's why you get all of the stars. That's why you get them in the ring also and you train them. That's why you get Bad Bunny. Bad Bunny was in a match at WrestleMania. So was Rob Gronkowski a couple years ago. You get all them because you want casual fans. This is not the time where this is not even the time. It's been the last 10 years or so. You don't get the legends and they bring in. Hulk Hogan doesn't. Hulk Hogan went out for 2 nights with Titus O'Neil at WrestleMania. Anybody that watched that. In his own hometown, Tampa. Titus is too. But to be fair, Hulk Hogan got booed both times. We already know why. We already know that story. But the biggest thing is they don't want... The casuals are going to be, hey, we know Hogan. We know that. We watched him when we were kids. But young people, who's that old man? Who's that guy? It's all there. And besides, it's all that now. And besides, everything we do now in sports, everything now is a business. Whether or professional wrestling even. It's all a business mindset. Every ounce. So when you have a load management deal, that's a business decision. When you had NFL go to 18 games and still only have one bye, you just guaranteed they're going to retire after about 7 or 8 years on average. You're just going to guarantee it. And unless you start, and we're going to lose LeBron James, he's in his 18th season, but unless you do bring him permanently down to 72 games in the NFL and NHL, unless you do that kind of stuff, the seasons are too long. Maybe great for us as fans, but in a business world, it's a terrible idea. And Zion Williamson is going to be a star. Jay Morant is going to be a star. All these guys we're bringing up, it's going to be a star. It's going to be. And that means that and those things, that load management's here to stay. It is here to stay. And we need to understand all this. It's like, because business, it is all business now. It's like, you can't, Joel Embiid is constantly getting hurt, and we talk about that for the playoff and everything like that, but he's going to leave the game early, it looks like. I bet you anything. He's already been hurt many times. I think we've probably seen the last of the 18-year guys with LeBron James. Unless you bring down the season. And if you did not allow load management anymore, there's going to be more early retirements, which will ruin the game. And so there's that debate between the NBA stating that because they have television contracts to honor, they want the stars on there. You do understand that. But if they don't rest now, especially when they've seen that Kawhi and LeBron have both won with this, they're going to retire early. There is more than the sports now. There's more than coaching. Nate McMillan, which I'll bring up in the next segment, will go into coaching. But a lot of these guys want to be Hollywood. A lot of them do. A lot of these sports guys have tried it. I mean, Eddie George's been an actor. He's trained acting. A lot of them want to be big-time business. Carmelo Anthony has a business interest now. So LeBron James definitely has business interests. Everything is more. It is more than just going straight into coaching and everything like that now. Everything now is a business. It's a business mind. And it's also thinking about your future, that if you're going to play. I mean, if you're going to be able to lift your kids. There's a lot of things they're going to think about now. Maybe the people look younger. Remember back in the 80s, you look at people 28 years old, they looked like Clyde Drexler, if you want to look that up. Now they do look like kids. But they also take care of themselves. If people think that those people of the older days, if they think that these people didn't play hurt, maybe they played hurt, but that they were just they're tough, everything like that. There was a lot of pain pills going through that, no matter how tough they were, and they were tough. But everything is completely different now with these players. Their training is so specific now. I mean, like we hear of Tim Tebow going back to football again. He's got to train a different way that he did for baseball. This isn't just simply lifting weights right now. This isn't simply running anymore. You have rehab. You have physical therapy just for the thing of preventing injuries. You have this now, which you did not really have before that was any good. You have this now. And when people feel a twinge, they're not just going to take a pill and gut it out. They're not going to do it anymore. They know that they could shred their ankle, and it's a business decision, and it could end their career. So you have the NBA having to figure out what they're going to do about their TV rights and their TV they have to honor, those contracts they have to honor, and wanting those players. And you have players thinking about the now. So that's one thing that needs to be understood. We can't keep going backwards in life. This is a faster world. And it's going to get faster. It's going to be crazier. It's like, watch it. In the NBA, there'll probably be 4 point. There'll probably be a 4 point line. You don't think that's true? Anybody that doesn't think that's true? They had one in the. You don't think that the Ice Cube's little league over there wouldn't have a 4 point? They didn't have a 4 point line. You don't think so? Remember, 1979 is when the 3 point line came into play. There was 40 years before from a 2 point line to 3. You want to know what this is going to be right now? It's a 4 point line came. 4 point line came in the next 4 or 5 years. 45 years. Things are going to change. The life changes. And if you don't think, and if you're just begging and pleading on your podcast or the comment section or whatever for the load management to stop, it's only going to get worse. So you're just going to have to get used to it. Anyway, when I come back, I'm in my final segment, I'm going to talk about Nate McMillan and where I went wrong with the Atlanta Hawks. See you in a minute. Welcome back. And now my final segment here. My final segment. I was absolutely wrong about something. I was absolutely wrong, no questions asked, and I'll admit it. When Luka Doncic was picked third by the Hawks, 2018, I was ready to get tickets. See, I watched him play some games, Real Madrid. It was all over the place. You can watch it anywhere. Used to watch that kind of stuff. I'm that kind of person that likes to go to Euro leagues and stuff like that for different sports, and sometimes Korean baseball, especially when Korean baseball was really showing up after with COVID time. I like watching those a little bit. I'm kind of weird like that. And so I knew who Luka Doncic was. I was excited. I was ready to get tickets. Then they traded him for Trae Young. And the thing that I'd seen from Trae Young is that he was on a team that started 13-0 at Oklahoma, blew up completely, and then lost in the first round, which I was mistaken. I thought they didn't even make the NCAA tournament. They won like 3 games after. It was basically him doing all the work and all the thing, and it reminded me of Michael Jordan's early years before Scottie Pippen showed up. It reminded me of that. It is that guy who wants to do it all. But here's the difference. Here was the difference. Michael Jordan did try passing it off. He did try making his team work. Always did. See, that's the big thing that you don't get when you get a Max Kellerman who just panders to everything. A Stephen A. Smith who's just flip-flops. That's what you don't get from that. You're going to think that Michael Jordan was before Phil Jackson was somebody who didn't want to dish it off, who just wanted to do all the shooting. No. He tried to. But when your guys are like Brad Sellers and Granville Waiters, like Gene Banks, when it's those guys, it's a little different than when it's Scottie Pippen, Horace Grant, Dennis Rodman, and all those. Then, yeah, he tried to take over in the end. He took over a lot of games, and he won a lot of games. But those are the differences. See, Trae Young, I never saw him as somebody that truly wanted to get his teammates involved. I never saw it. By design, maybe double teamed. Any of those things. He did have numbers. And mind you, anything I'm saying about Trae Young, he's always been an offensive force. Every minute, he's been an offensive force. He's been a great offensive force to the team. He's like James Harden, you're a great offensive force. But in the end, I didn't see a leader. Then they proved me wrong. Nate McMillan came in. This year. And look where they're at. They're one of the best teams in basketball. See, And I can tell you this, I've only done coaching on a volunteer level with kids. But I can say this part just from the thing. The right coach can get into somebody's head. I don't care if it's a volunteer thing at a YMCA or wherever it may be, or in the NBA. The right coach can get into somebody's head and just change their game, a whole game around. Doug Collins in Chicago made the whole thing about Michael Jordan for those 2 or 3 years. The whole thing. Every bit of it. He got the ball constantly, every little detail. It was his whole thing. It's why you got that's why you got 37.1 points a game one year. 35 another year. That's why you got all that. But you had to convince Michael Jordan that it was right to get Phil Jackson, who wanted the triangle offense, where the ball constantly moves around. And see, it isn't like Michael Jordan didn't move the ball around. He had to play point guard for a little time after the regular point guard got injured. He got 7 straight triple doubles. Look it up. It's in history. They do that. But you know something? He was a leader trying to win. He is obsessive. To this day, even in his businesses, he's obsessive. But and then you saw him, and that's history. But see, didn't see that Luka. Did not see that with Luka Doncic. Not Luka, I'm sorry. Trae Young. I saw it with Luka. But even Luka has his own immaturity issues. But Trae Young, I didn't see it. Nate McMillan did. Look at the difference in the game, the type of game, the spread around, everything. Look at the differences. The right coach can get into somebody's head and do it all. And I keep forgetting that sometimes when I make the predictions like that, I forget the idea of a great coach that can get into your head. See, the thing is, I'm not fond of James Harden. I think he's the offensive force who doesn't. I mean, who has the worst, I think he's one of the worst in the clutch I've ever seen. In big games, at least. One of the worst. And while Steve, I don't believe Steve Nash is the one who's going to get into his head. There can be a coach out there that could. And see, James Harden's somebody who has all the confidence in the world. He says, I'm pretty good at this game. So we know it can be brought. But it's kind of proof that no matter what we say and what we all do this. I did it. Everybody does this. All fans do it. We forget that the coach makes it. Coach can make any player take it to another level. A little historical deal. Larry Bird was pretty much a second, even before this, was probably a second team Hall of Famer. Second ballot, excuse me. He's probably a second ballot Hall of Famer. We're watching him from 79 to 83. 84 on, Casey Jones, Dennis Johnson as the point guard. He was a video game. An absolute video game. His stats out of this world. See, sometimes it just takes a little tweak. Just a little tweak. It's what it does. What we need to do. And it's like, as fans, and I'm going to have to remember this myself because there's going to be times I'm going to make this mistake also. I'm going to make this mistake here and there. These are all NBA players. All of them. And we get to the pundits who will talk about saying this guy's the worst in this thing and this worst in that. Got to remember, we're going to go to another sport. Adam Gase once got Jay Cutler to only have 11 interceptions in 1 year. Jay Cutler, the guy who threw the worst interceptions in football, the worst types, horrible decision making on the field, horrendous. For all that great arm, he made some of the worst decisions ever. And he got him to do 11 interceptions, have one of the best years of his career. Adam Gase. That was the reason he was considered a blue chip coach before all this with the Jets and everything. There are just some coaches that can get into the head and they can figure it out. And so I will absolutely say myself that I apologize to the Atlanta Hawks, to Trae Young, and to everybody else for saying that I didn't believe that they'd win more than 30 games with Trae Young as a leader. It's because I forgot Nate McMillan. I forgot that there's always a coach out there that can get into somebody's head and get that another level. That's why coaches exists. So, my respect and ready for the playoffs. And that is the end of the show. And this was fun. Let me know. Let me know what you guys think on YouTube. Let me know in the comments section right then and there. And enjoy. And hopefully you enjoy the show. And I got many more to come. Thank you for watching. Have a good night. Hello. Thank you for watching. Subscribe here for more information on the show, including clips, interviews, and much more here on the Pundit's Pundit.